everyone, and welcome to the next episode of the Beach Court Podcast. I'm joined, as always, by Parker Greenwald, Max Corcoran. My name is Eric Ridgway. We got a full agenda for you today. Twitter has been cooking, as they say in the business this week. So we'll talk a little bit about what Twitter's talking about as it relates to the growth of the game. We'll talk about Charlotte Regionals, of course. I just got back from the Charlotte Regional Championships, finished 5-3-1. Did not get any championship points. We'll talk about that. That's part of the growth of the game too. Anyways, well, moving on from that, there's also some discussions about big changes that we need in the game as far as day twos and like decks being available, deck lists being available, prize checking. So we'll give all of our thoughts on those topics. And last but not least, we got Liverpool Regionals this weekend, Knoxville the week after. So we'll run through what our updated tier list looks like after the results for Charlotte. Hello, boys. How are you doing this week?
Doing pretty good.
Oh, go ahead.
As always, I'm laughing over here at seeing Parker's face reactions, and I wish we could incorporate that into some thumbnails. For anyone who's not watching us at youtube.com/beachcourtpod.
Maddox with his drops. He's so good with them.
Actually, I don't even know if that's the right link, but we'll carry on.
Parker,
not even subscribed.
What was your weekend like? You were watching a lot of Pokemon?
I worked Saturday. It was so unbelievably busy. I could barely, all the messages I sent were like the only times I was able to actually look at Pokestats.
Yeah.
It was that busy. And then Sunday was pretty dead, so I watched a lot of day two and was like keeping the tracker on. There are two players from Jacksonville that made day two.
Yeah, congrats to Jason Birch, made a really deep run. Jackson Horn also made day two. Congrats to both of those locals. Jason made a really deep run, had a winning into top 8. Well, winning bubble, right?
Winning bubble.
Like
36 match points.
Yeah. When I was there, kind of like after, because I had just finished GLC challenge and I walked over once I realized he was on that winning in, I started looking at the stats. I kind of figured whoever won that match was going to bubble. And I was right in the end. Because both of their resistance didn't look very good going into the match. And I didn't think it was going to change much. And it looked like 2 people were going to bubble, and it ended up being 1 because Cal Connor had a natural tie on his winning in. Poor Cal, two tournaments in a row, missing top 8 with the Snorlax. He got in at 6:30 a.m. and ran lax.
So yeah. And he went 801 day 1. I mean, just absolutely.
He's on a tear right now.
He's just on playing out of his mind right now.
Yeah. So if you're looking to check out Snorlax stall, I know some of you kind of enjoy that deck. I think he just posted a group session that might be already sold out, but he's going to be kind of going through that. So
yeah, he posted a group session and then it filled up almost instantly. And then he posted, okay, well, here's extra seats for the group session, and that filled up almost instantly. So if you're listening to this on Thursday or Friday, hopefully that you can go to his Twitter and he's got more spaces.
Yeah, maybe another session. Yeah, maybe Parker can play some Snorlax stall. I think that's his type of deck.
Yeah, not particularly.
I mean, honestly, I was about to sign up for the expanded session just because like it's a really interesting deck that I want to learn some more about, and it filled up already. So I was like, oh, maybe if they open another one, I'll
That's crazy, isn't it? Like it just opened today, and he's already got like 20-30 spots filled.
Yeah. Props to him. Just on right now.
He's absolutely killing it with the deck. Anyways, I chose to play Miraidon this weekend after Nick Moffitt kind of had a really good run with it, kind of re-inspired me. And I didn't really feel like Palkia was in a good place this tournament. Just with the amount of Tinas that are forced to play Manaphy because of the mirror match, really kind of put Palkia back down a little bit on kind of how I feel about it. Because you can beat Tina with Palkia if you can get Greninja onto 2 Tinas. It takes 4 attacks to win that game, sadly, but that's your route to win that game. So I chose to play Miraidon. Some of the choices I made were I did try the 2 Miraidon out instead of 3. And overall, it felt okay. Through 9 rounds, I only went attach pass once. So felt pretty good. And from there, the one game I won attach pass was Spirit Tomb attach pass against Lost Tina. And I won that game somehow. I'm really not sure how. But my tournament really just, it started off not great with a tie against the Tina player that I did not think was playing too well, but you know how Tina games go. They go Roxanne path and you break out of your mind off the Roxanne and, you know, they hit the nuts and that's just how it goes. And we just didn't have enough time for game 3. And then I beat the mirror round 2. And then I hit what I feel like is an auto loss with the deck. I hit Bibzard. Like Bibzard feels like the worst matchup from Rhydon. I don't know if there is a worse matchup.
Did I have the Evo tool
Oh,
and
yeah.
everything?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Evo TM, Bibzard, and like if you draw the nuts, which there was like one turn where you need to like draw a counter catcher raw, and he like drew it, and I was like, oh my goodness, you know, you got it, whatever. So then, you know, kind of sucked. I'm 1-1-1, but it's fine. In Portland, I was 1-1-1, and we ran it back, right? It happens. Next round versus Noah, another Charizard. This one was just a traditional Pidgeot Zard. Game 3 came down game 3. Judge Path. Judge Path into a 30 card deck with, you know, maybe 2 candies, 2 Arvins left. And the judge was Candy, Arvin. So it's like, okay, good game. You know, you win that one. I can't do anything. I can't remember what Nate was playing in round 5. I have to kind of look back at my stats. But anyways, round 6, my other loss that put me on a day 2 contention was the spiciest Lost Tina deck I've ever played against.
Nice.
Also an auto loss, I feel like. This gentleman was playing 5 different types of energy in his deck. Playing water, psychic grass, normal, no jet energy, a luminous energy, and fire. Like the first time I saw fire, I was like, is he playing a Radiant Zard? And I was like, no, Ninja's on the bench. Can't be that. And he's ended up playing the basic Reggie Drago that hits for 240 damage.
Dang.
So into Miraidon, like if he gets,
That's
and he was
huge.
playing vacuums. Into
Yeah.
Miraidon, if you just vacuumed away my charm, because I did choose to play a charm. I do think that charm is still very good in a lot of situations. He just, you know, I can't beat that, man. It's just like, and then like game 3, I made him go first. So I'm like, there's no way this deck works, right? Like your deck just has to brick. You've got 5 different energy types and all this nonsense. And he just goes comfy, switch card, comfy, you know, and it's just like, all right, well, can't beat that. Ended up winning my last 3, like again, which was like some struggle matches. Round 8 was my Tina opponent that I went Spirit Team Attached past game 3, and I'm like, well, cool, I'm not even gonna get points. You know, so I'm here struggling, and then beat Gunner round 9, another Mew player playing DTE Fusion, playing just straight Fusion, pretty close to your list, Maddox, and it's just I won that. I was like, all right, cool, I'm gonna get points. Ended up bubbling out, and we'll talk about kind of that in a minute. But one of the things I just want to say about everyone and kind of like where we are right now with this podcast is the amount of support that I felt this tournament, you know, just from random people that I don't know. I truly just want to send a thank you out to everyone for your follows, your subscribes, your likes on Twitter. There was random people just next to me, like looking at the mat, you know, the Beach Court podcast mat, and like, oh yeah, I just listened to the episodes yesterday, you know, and it's I look over, he's playing Mew. I'm like, oh, you're playing Maddox to 60, right? And he's like, yeah, I'm playing Maddox to 60. So, you know, just anyways, I ranted for a little bit there. I'm sure you have more to add on to that.
No, I mean, like lots of great support. I'm super glad to. I mean, again, just it's exciting to see everyone so enthusiastic about the podcast and enjoying the list. Right, my favorite thing was having people write me before and say, "Hey, I think I'm going to play your list. Any tips or help us run through the matchups?" Shout out to Xander Bennett who got me on the phone with his room and says, "Hey, talk us through Fusion DTE. We were trying to decide, and we worked on it together with them."
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, just things like that's been really cool. To see. I mean, you had a less than stellar finish at Charlotte just because I think a lot of people were ready for it. But still, just again, thanks for all the support of the podcast, and excited to see y'all some more in Knoxville.
Yeah. Yeah, we got one more tournament with Mew. So, or 2 more, technically. 3 more, technically.
Well, 4 more technically, because there's also Melbourne.
Oh, is Melbourne Mew format too?
Yeah.
Wow.
Melbourne's the
y'all
same
going
weekend
to
as
Melbourne?
it's same weekend as Knoxville, I'm pretty sure.
Is it?
Let's check PTC Legends so we can see our upcoming tournaments. Not sponsored, but you could sponsor it. Anyways, just saying.
Great
Dortmund
website.
regionals also.
Oh, so there's like 5.
actually, and there's a new there's some new Brazil regionals coming out. There's one in March 9th, and March 10th.
Okay, so Mew's got a couple more opportunities to win one more regional.
Lots of chances to play Mew. Not a lot in the United States. Actually, only
Looks
one more in the United States. One
looks
more in
like
Canada.
Dre is no longer playing Mew, or going to a tournament where he can play Mew. He posted his funeral post today. He's very sad.
I'll probably save mine for rotation just because I'll be playing Mew at locals at least as long as I can.
Yeah.
And I'll bring it to EUIC also.
Oh. But yeah, again, just huge thanks for all the support this last couple weeks. It was great. Keep watching, keep liking, keep subscribing, sharing it with your friends. All you can do. Thank you guys. And if you ever see us at a tournament, which Maddox and I will both be in Knoxville, come back and say hi, and for the autograph, we'll also sign something. Maddox is famous. He got top 8, so
Top 4.
top 4. You got top 4, yeah. And
Put some respect
eventually,
on his name.
eventually Parker will join us at regionals again. Maybe Orlando.
I'll be at
We'll
Orlando.
be at
for sure.
Orlando.
Hey, gonna
Was
be
really
rocking the
excited-
post row deck.
I was really excited that we
Something.
almost had back-to-back 904s in a top cut.
That's
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, so just running back to Jason's match. So I'm over there, I'm watching the match, and Jason is playing against Ark, which I thought in theory was a really good matchup for him, which it is, right? But the issue can come down to in a match in a game where he goes second, if he gets pathed and doesn't have the out, then it could be tough. So I think Jason won game 1. I'm not sure really what happened game 2, but I know Jason lost. And I'm following along game 3. Jason's kind of in the lead. Things are going well. And Jason misses either a boss or something one turn, and either has to take a single prize or just has to like retreat to a single prizer and pass to not kind of mess up the trade. He did prize a dark patch, which kind of ended up being very pivotal in that matchup. And then when he passed, because he couldn't win that turn, Makani was just in a situation where he just needed a boss to win because there was a Mew on the bench, the Mew EX. And following along with the game, I was like, Makani probably just gonna get it here because he has I think 3 boss on the deck.
Yeah.
But I was wrong. There was only 1. So Makani, thins out a Pokemon, does some thinning, and then just goes straight for the Nest Dash. Nest Dash right into the boss. No hurt, not even draw a bib, just Nest Dash right into the boss. And, that's that darn squirrel, man. He always puts in so much work.
That's
So,
Squirrel.
That squirrel. He's out here
Yeah.
Nest Dashing, but poor Makani, we can transition to this now. Like I said, we knew someone was gonna bubble, looking at what's going on, but it doesn't make it any better. But Charlotte Regionals was the largest regionals ever. 2,133 masters. And something we haven't been talking about enough, and we can, is 250 seniors. They got
Yeah.
a day 2. And
Now,
the
Nine rounds
juniors,
of a day 2.
the juniors almost hit day 2 as well. They had
Yeah.
195. So it was really cool to see the growth between 2023, 2024. You look at Charlotte Regionals, 1,171 masters last year. So we almost doubled it this year, and 36 pointer bubbled from top 8. Was that? How do you guys feel about the growth of the game right now, and what's going on?
And obviously, it's amazing. I love seeing all the new people. There's really tough competition because everyone is really trying. There's all these coaching people that a lot of people pay for coaching, and you can see just the average opponent now is harder than it used to be,
Oh yeah,
and the games are tough and stuff.
Yeah,
How
I
do-
think.
sorry.
Just for a while, we'd see so many tournaments hitting their caps, especially last season and even some into this season, right? It's just really nice to see a tournament that really was almost unrestricted. It felt like it almost seemed like anyone who wanted to go to Charlotte could sign up for it. So just seemed like, hey, this is what a cap 4 tournament could even be, or how many people would show up for it. And again, I mean, almost double what it was the year before, which in less than really 10 months. Hasn't even been a full year since the last Charlotte Regional. So something like that, just see the growth. I mean, it's tremendous. And like Parker was saying, it's your average opponent is so much tougher. And even though there's more expanded point thresholds, so now top 512 gets points. It's only 20, but it's still some points. It's becoming increasingly harder and harder to, get points at these events and get those big finishes. And again,
Yep.
for the longest time amongst top players, 35 was the magic number
Yep.
for getting into top cut. says, oh hey, yeah, if you go 11x2, then you're probably in. 36 kind of became, oh, if you're 12-3, you should definitely be safe. And now here we have cases, 36 match points. You're not even safe there. So
You're not even safe. And that was crazy.
Yeah.
so Orlando was was the largest regional last season. If Orlando has the potential to also go uncapped, kind of like Charlotte, then is there a world where, right? I mean, how much bigger can we go is the question. I think it's still a little ways that we can go.
Well,
I
yeah,
think Orlando's like, I think if unrestricted, yeah, I think
it
it's
could hit
more.
close to 3K. Yeah, I mean, I really do think that. Like, and that's wild to say. I mean, Charlotte really, honestly, well, obviously there's a lot of people. There is a lot of people, but it didn't feel like there was a lot of people. Like there was a good amount of space between, the tables. It was set up very well. We had tables where we could fit 2 mats, which was great.
That's
The
good.
escalator situation was not great, but that's just the venue. All of their halls are below where you walk, so you have to go down. But there's not much they can do about that. So overall, I thought it was very well run. I think we were out by like 8:30, 9 rounds, no lunch. Turnaround time's really good. The one thing I will say is like at these larger events and things like that, understand that every player is also a spectator. And that we're gonna want to hang out and watch games in areas that games are going on. And there were so many times where they're like fire marshal this, fire marshal that. You got to go over here to the very side, and it's like there really wasn't there wasn't any type of like structure to that. If you have structure that you want, you probably should kind of section it off and say like, hey, after your round, go outside the ropes, and the ropes are here, whatever it is, or be sitting down somewhere.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
like it happens at every event. There's nowhere to stand, right? But when there with the escalator issues, nobody wanted to go back outside because it wasn't like you could easily get in and out, versus like some venues you can. Because literally it's like escalators down, there's 2 on each side, but like each side has 1 up, 1 down. And they come down to this little small section, no bigger than like, a normal kind of 3-door entry, and everyone goes in from there. So no one wanted to go outside. But Overload did a really good job. The event was really well run. So shout out to Overload, running the largest championship ever. So back to the 36-point thing. What do you feel like the solution is going forward? Because I don't think, it's sat well with the community. There's a lot of discussion on Twitter this week about it because of the 36. I know we've talked about it a little bit here before because of the top 32 bubbles and all that nonsense. I mean, Jason had to win in the top 8 or bubble top 8 and got 32nd on the dot.
32nd. Yeah.
And like almost missed money. And that's just like I've said it time and time again. That's unacceptable. You cannot have a winning end bubble top 8, lose that match, and then not get any money. Like that just so feels bad. So the options are kind of like day 2 extra round being thrown around, pods to top 16 cut, just straight top 16 cut, asymmetrical cut. What options do you think, Parker? You've been around the game a long time. What do you feel like the best solution is?
So I know they do the asymmetrical at Worlds, like Worlds only. It's like I don't know if like that's the solution for regionals. I honestly think once you hit over, I don't know, 1,600 players or something, you should put a 7th round on day 2. Just me personally. Top 16 is like kind of sort of the same thing as that, but I mean, just like I think an extra round for everyone just kind of benefits a little bit more than just like cutting the top 16 after the 6th round. But I don't know. Most games don't really cut to top 16. I know, so like Yu-Gi-Oh, they cut to top 64 after day 2 at their YCSs, and then it's just single elimination from there. Like one
top
plays 64. Yeah.
That's crazy. Single elimination, like one game.
Oh well, best of 3, but yeah, they
Okay.
just like you lose your out basically. Um, yeah, top 16 is not really common for games.
I mean, Japan does top 16, right? All of their larger tournaments. I mean, they're used to running
Yeah,
larger tournaments. I'm pretty sure they do top 16 cut.
they might. Yeah, I'm
No,
not
they also do a
actually.
lot more games though.
Yeah,
Do
they
they?
play like what 12 rounds day 1, but it's all best of 1 or something like that.
Yeah, it's all best
I
of one.
think.
Actually, oh sorry, here it is. nine rounds day 1, 5 rounds day 2 into top 16 cut, and they had
Okay.
2,800 players.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I
But-
think that's fine, right?
Like kind of, I do kind of see what Parker's saying, where right, an extra round is kind of functionally like a top 16. I do think that if we do a top 16, then while we're not having issues with people around 8, 9, 10 bubbling, we're now adding issues with people around 16, 17, 18 bubbling. If you have that extra round and give people the opportunity to, if they're good enough to get 12-3, okay, now we're set that extra bar. Can you get to 13-3? Can you get to 12x2 type of thing, like those extra lines that are maybe rewarding those players that can play extra and are playing especially well to win those games and just be able to lock it in and kind of confirm that for themselves. Now, again, this still doesn't solve all of our cash prizing issues and doesn't solve the issue that you're playing 16 rounds of Pokemon over 2 days, and then now if you're in top cut, now you're playing 1, 2, or 3 more games.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of Pokemon, and day 2s are already kind of running late. Anyone who's when's the last
Has a
time any of
flight.
y'all have actually stayed till the end of a finals match? Or have you just gone and gotten food and watched it on your phone, right?
I mean,
Yeah,
Worlds.
pretty much.
Yeah, right.
Worlds.
But Worlds has the whole day for it, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I mean, like these matches, I mean, they're already getting done super late. Like, how much later can we go? It's a tough part to see. There's no easy solution. Every part of it has its problems, but I do think the part we do see is that it's as we get more and more people, it's very, very top loaded, and again, forcing people into those aggressive situations, saying, hey, I got to play for 36, 37 points now just to have a chance to lock it in. And then maybe that extra risk means, okay, well, because I went for it, now I'm missing money because I got 34th place.
Yeah. I mean, for personally, I like some form of asymmetrical cuts. I think I've mentioned that before, that
With the golf thing.
yeah, like
Yeah,
the golf thing, right? Like, for this example, right, there would have been, if you do asymmetrical, then Makani plays whoever's 8th place. So Makani plays Russell for the right to be 8th place. Like, that's just one extra round. Yes, it sucks, for those 2 people, but whatever, right? Like, that's just how it worked out, or something along those lines. I think needs to happen. I don't really know exactly what they would do, for the winning in the top 8 specifically. They could definitely do it with money, asymmetrical cuts with money, pretty simple. You got your prize pool, you divide it by, people ties. And yes, it means a little bit less money here and there, but I think, someone would rather a little bit less money than no money, right? So you
Yeah.
look at top 32. I think this was a clean cut, right? No, that wasn't clean. 1, 2,
No.
3, 4, 5, 6 people bubbled top 32. I think I checked it. None of these had winning in the top 8, thankfully. All of these either won their last round or tied. Like Moffitt tied the last round and bubbled out with Maridon again. Gearhart won. Davidson tied, and Aiden tied. So everyone that bubbled out wasn't on a winning end, except for Jason, who almost missed it. So
Yeah.
I know even sometimes like those decisions though play into it. I know I believe Jarek, friend of the pod, played Aiden Koos, another friend of the podcast, on that last round and kind of said, well, hey, we'll just ID both get to 33. That should lock us in for top 32.
Yeah.
Lock in for money. Aiden bubbled out, was 33rd.
Yeah.
Jarek did bubble in, right? But then now, again, just something that felt very safe before now doesn't even feel safe. And again, it varies so much by those numbers, right? I got a top 32 in Fresno before, which had 900 people, and I got top 32 with 30 match points, right? So like
Yeah.
here we have people that are getting 33 match points that are bubbling out of money, right? I mean, just the growth of the game is incredible because we all love Pokemon, but when it comes to people being rewarded in the current prize pool system and the championship point system, even there's something left to be desired.
Yeah. I mean, so it's definitely like Pokemon has to address this next season. I don't think they can do anything about it the rest of this season, sadly. But this, sooner rather than later, Pokemon should at least come out with a statement that says, hey, we realize the game is growing. We realize we need to make changes. We are evaluating. We'll have more information for you soon, right? Even something as simple as that, if Pokemon did that, I think the community would love it. They've talked about wanting to be more transparent, but they're working on it behind the scenes, or at least you pray they are. And if you're not Pokemon and you're listening, please continue to work on this because we need changes. Otherwise, it's really, really tough.
I think the tough position that Pokemon's in also is that they just made changes, right? They just increased the prize pool significantly
Yeah,
past season, right?
yeah,
Because before you'd go and win a 1,500 person tournament and you'd win $5,000.
$5,000. Yeah,
You know, now you're now winning, but now we're in a spot. Okay, you're winning a 2,200 person tournament and you're winning 10 grand. It's great, but okay, you go 10, right? What did Aiden go? 10, 2, 3,
yeah.
and you get 18 packs, right? It's like that stings a bit.
Yeah, I mean, you look down to the 64 bubble as well. You talk about your 30 points. There's people that had 31 match points and didn't get a lick.
Mm-hmm.
They got nothing.
They got 40 points and
they got 40
home,
points.
right?
Yeah. So, I mean, it was obviously it's the largest tournament ever. They are growing. There has to be changes that have to be made. Hopefully, Pokemon is listening and will take to the community. I don't think the community is. Wait a second. Is that what I think it is? There's no way that's real.
You just see something? Breaking news.
No,
You
no.
have Twitter pulled up too. That's dangerous when you're live
No,
recording the
no,
podcast.
no. This is.
This
is
better
it
be
someone-
great, or else you're
No,
gonna have to do a
it's-
lot of editing.
Oh,
or
it's
the
actually
viewers are
going to
confused.
be really good into our next topic. So once we get there, I'll bring it up because it's actually hilarious.
Breaking news.
Keeping the people waiting.
Keeping people waiting, through the through the sponsor read. Anyways, anything else to say about the Charlotte Regionals and how large it was and do we want to talk about the results? Probably should talk a little bit about that before
Yeah.
before we move on, huh?
I guess one
so
thing
far
I
we
just
talked
want to
about-
say.
Yeah, we've talked about 8th and 9th place. We've talked about 32nd place. Let's talk about first, maybe just once.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Parker.
Well, just real quick, I just wanted to touch on I think they need to up. I know I think I've said this before. They need to up championship points at least
Yeah.
for just this many people. Like you went 5-3-1, did not get a single point.
None.
But I'm just looking at the Brisbane regional. 4-2-3 got 40 points, top 128. Whereas looking here,
You need 28.
yeah, 28 match points for Charlotte didn't even get half of them bubbled out of points for top 128. They just played the entirety of day 2, 9-5-1, a good record, and still didn't get top 128 points.
Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, when I learned the news that I bubbled, I mean, I'm not shocked because all of my opponents, thank you for the matches. They were fun, but they didn't do well. None of my opponents made day 2, so I wasn't shocked if there was a bubble that I bubbled.
Right.
But God, it felt real bad, real bad. Right now I'm in a position where I have all my cups at top 4. I can go win a cup and get 18 points. I can go win a 6-person cup and, 9-person cup, whatever the number is, 12, whatever, and get 18 points. And that whole day, and I was at a point where after I lost my day 2 contention that I kind of considered dropping, just because, I'm in a good position and I didn't really need to push it. But, I was encouraged by my friends to, keep practicing, yada, yada,
stick it out.
stick it out, maybe go get points. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. And once I got into that mindset, I went into straight on battle mode. I was like, all right, I'm going to win the next 3 and I'm going to at least, salvage points. And when I tell you, man, the distraught on my face, when I went
Tomb.
Tomb attached pass against Tina game 3. And I'm like, well, there goes all my hard work. And then I come back and win that game. And then I sweat it out against Mew. You know how that goes against Mew. It's just, oh, I didn't even tell you this. Maddox, homie Gunner, bro, pulled a Maddox to game 1 for sure. My board setup was so good. I got 3 energy on board, Tomb down, had a good supporter in hand, and path in play. All this turn 1 going first. Homie went Lost City,
Sparkle.
Lost City VIP, Sparkle in hand, Ice Cube in hand, Fusion Energy in hand. That was his 6 cards in hand. Didn't put any fusions onto the Genesect. Just went straight for get that Tomb out of here, bro. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I was like, man, if Maddox was here, there was a spot Maddox
Hey.
too. Also, I think it was like game 2 or game 3. I made a mistake. This is my fault. I let him use your fusion die.
What? Oh wait, you
And
brought my fusion
he
die.
straight up flipped heads when he really, really needed it and got VIP pass one game. And I was like, son of a.
Hey, they don't call him Gunner for a
But
reason.
anyways, yeah.
That's too
Um,
funny.
so back to Charlotte regionals and the results. So congratulations to Vinny coming all the way from Brazil, getting first place. I think this is his first year master. Is that what they were saying?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So
He's on
that's
a
a
tear.
huge accomplishment. Congratulations, Vinny.
Yeah.
We got Lost Tina first, beat Charizard in the finals. Gustavo Wada got third. Ryan Miller with Turbo Maridon got fourth. Alex Shemansky with Lost Box Zard got fifth. The talk around the town right now is the $2,000 coin flip for Ryan Miller. Uh, Isaiah
Pokemon
Bradner,
catcher for game.
yeah, Pokemon catcher for game. Isaiah Brander got 6 with Lost Tina. Ross Cawthron, also, great player of the game, very established. Roaring Moon ran it back, made a couple of changes, made a top 8. I'm not sure what he lost. I think he lost to Tina. And then another Lost Tina in top 8. So 3 Lost Tinas in top 8. And as we stated before, Makani Bubble with Art Gigas again. So really stacked top 8 here, really, strong list. What is your impressions on the Charlotte results? Anything stood out to you about top 8?
It went kind of similarly to like what I think I predicted. It was cool to see 4 different decks top 4 though. That's a tribute to just again how diverse the meta has been
Yeah.
for forever and ever, pretty much ever since Tier S Lugia went away. It's
Yep.
been fairly wide open, which is super cool to see. It's encouraging to newer players that I hate when only there's one deck and that kind of stuff. But I'm like a little surprised to not see Mew still, just because I know there are some really good players on it, and like also like it is like maybe the closest thing that people actually play right now to slightly favorable into Tina.
Yeah.
But,
I think
yeah,
what changes, I saw a lot of Tinas with Tomb.
yeah, that's true. That is true.
Yeah, I think I
I
mean,
think you
first
can
off,
thank Maddox for that actually.
yeah, right. So I think the main list that people showed up with was not Fusion. It was Ian, Rob, Vance Kelly, their whole crews. The Mew with the Fusion package, right? So it just plays 2 Fusion Strike Energy plus the one at least a Sparkle, which like that is your answer theoretically. But again, if they put out Tomb, I forget. I think it was Christian Fontenot, right? One was Sable Zard out in Europe, but he kind of said, hey, when you play Tomb against a Mew deck, if you're in a best of 3, you're probably just gonna win one of the games just by them straight up bricking.
Yep.
It's like, so yeah, maybe they'll get out of it the other 2 games, but you have some other chances there. I think people were definitely ready for Mew. I think
Mm-hmm.
the other piece that contributed to well is that while only one of them made top 8, we saw 2 more Roaring Moon in top 16. And I
Yeah.
think that Roaring Moon, I mean, to me, is really like that's the standout deck from this past weekend. People were showing up with the Roaring Moon decks, performing very well, strong, consistent lists, and being able to do well, and not just quite the linear path that we knew. So I
Yeah.
think between Charizard still being a good play, Tina can still be a tricky matchup. Plus, they're adding Tomb now. Other decks randomly adding Tomb. And also more Roaring Moons, which I think DTE Mew, the Vance Kelly Ian Rob build, isn't very favored into Roaring Moon. It just has a tougher time. Like, yes, you have more Path and Judge. I think it has a harder time than something like Fusion, which can mix into single prizers. So,
Right.
Yeah. There was a lot.
yeah.
There was a lot of Moon. You look at the day 1 meta chart, 10% Roaring Moon,
Yeah, it was 10%.
205 decks. Day
I think
1.
I
yeah,
think it
and I
converted fairly well too.
It
I
did.
think we also mentioned that I think like this was like Moon's tournament kind of, but
Yeah. I think we did say something along the lines of Moon would be there. I will say, the talk on Friday all around the venue was Mew, 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 Mew. Like Mew was everywhere. And that could have swayed a lot of people maybe on Friday night, to switch to a Tomb in their deck, switch to Moon, put a Moon in their Lost Box deck, something. Um, like Mew was everywhere on Friday. It was kind of crazy how much Moon there was. Um, but yeah, I mean, what stood out to me for top 8 is that the Lost Box Sablezard was able to kind of navigate its way. Alex Szymanski, congratulations again. Making another top 8, able to navigate his way through, 12% Maridon.
Yeah.
And I don't think Lost Box Zard takes a good Charizard matchup. Sablezard does. I mean, the Devo tool definitely helps, but if a good player plays around it, I think, it's not a great matchup with the Jirachi and stuff. So,
Right.
when you add those two together, being 17% Charizard and 12% Maridon, that's close to 30% of the room,
Yeah.
to see Alex make it through it. I think Alex faced 3 Maridons in total. Only hit
That's
one Zard. So, and
true.
he was able to beat it. So, I mean, assuming PokeStats is correct, we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, I think the tournament's great. I agree with you, Parker, that the format is very healthy right now. You look at the day 2 shares: Tina 18%, Charizard 15, Moon 12, Gardevoir 11, Mew 11, and then a drop off to Lost Zone at 7 and Maridon at 7. There was just a lot of really good decks. A lot of people showed up. Golden Go was making a splash.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people playing Golden Go. I think the whole Shuffle Squad, pretty much all of them played Golden Go. So the meta is wide open right now. We'll talk about our Liverpool Knoxville tier list coming up soon.
Carlos made day 2 with Chen Pao. I didn't even see that.
Yes,
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Carlos did make day 2.
That's really the cool thing about the meta, like we were saying, is that if there's any deck that you've played that has once been a tier 0, tier 1, tier 2 deck
Pick it up.
lately, you can still keep playing it. And again, there'll be some tournaments where it's maybe a little better position, but it's still a solid deck, right? I mean, even Entei Valiant still hanging around. Rapid Strike still hanging around. Roaring Moon Guardian, like all these decks are out here. So if there's a deck that you like playing, that's I don't know, I guess isn't totally completely rogue. There even are some rogue decks that are making day 2. And there's a lot. It's a very healthy metagame. There's a lot of different things that can do well. You definitely be ready for those key matchups, though.
We did see one of our friends of the podcast, Anthony, make day 2 with Zoro Box.
Mm-hmm.
So he was doing well. So congratulations to Anthony for making day 2. Anyways, let's move on to our next topic. First, we're going to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Nakama Anime Cafe. Thanks again for your continued support. We love our local Japanese, authentic place here in Jacksonville. This week on Friday, the day after this episode comes out, they have a cosplay meetup for Spy Family. So if you got some Spy Family cosplay laying around, they have free entry, prizes for cosplay winners, and a DJ will be DJ Herm. Jay Herm will be lighting up the booth. Come get your dance on. Come, yeah. Parker's over here dancing on YouTube. But yeah, Nakama Anime Cafe here in Jacksonville, Florida, Orange Park, whatever you want to call it. Come hang out with us. Thanks for continued support.
Yeah. Again, the cool part about the stuff they're doing is that, even if you can't make it this Friday or you heard the podcast after, they're doing stuff like that all the time. So definitely make your out to Nakama.
All right. Moving on to the next Twitter hot topic of the week. Someone somewhere, I'm not gonna name names because I don't know where it started, but PokeStats live discussion, knowing your day 2 deck, being able to submit an incorrect deck, things along those lines, open team sheets, prize checking, saving time. There's a lot of topics that are going on right now that are very hot. And as I was alluding to earlier when I was looking through it, reason why I stopped, I'm on PokeStats Live. 157th place, Ming Wing played Arc Duraludon, according to PokeStats. But did he?
Let's check Limitless.
Let's check Limitless. He played Maridon Flaffy. So someone must have misreported him because I was like, ain't no way Arc Dura made day 2 in this economy. There's also an 87th, similar last name. Did they both do the same thing?
Search Wang.
Michael
No.
Zhang.
Oh, nope, that person did play an Arc deck. Arc Gigas, though, not Arc Dura. But that's probably because Gigas wasn't in PokeStats until today.
Oh, it's in PokeStats now? Great.
Yeah, I think he added it today. I saw a tweet about that. Anyway, so Jared's making some changes to make it where you can no longer self-report your deck to hopefully eliminate this. And it's just super unfortunate, guys. PokeStats Live is a great tool for a lot of people. Otherwise, if you don't have this, let me promise you, the top players in the game, they will know what you're playing. You want to level that playing field, trust me. At least to know the archetype. You don't need to know the open deck list, but we can talk about that in a minute. You want to have an idea because someone will know what you're playing and people can take it to their advantage. But so no longer you can submit decks for your opponent. Just do the right thing. PokeStats Live is a great application. It provides us with a lot of data.
So
Looking at
much.
matches. I think the biggest thing that PokeStats Live, does bring value to. Yes, we have the list that pop up on Limitless, but we don't know what they played against, right? You got this DTE Mew that just won the tournament. How the heck did they win the tournament? Oh, they didn't hit any Zards. Got it. They didn't hit any Tombs. Understood. Like those types of things. It's very vital information to be able to kind of metagame and predict what's coming. So I rambled a lot there. Folks, what are your thoughts? Maddox, you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, first off, again, just the work that Jared Grimes has done with PokeStats Live, I think is incredible. When I, came into the game at first, right, I was, playing Orlando regionals, and there's really no way to like track your progress very well. You had to go and find, maybe go to, Pokedata or some of those other sites that like really have the standings or find the Arcanine pairings. But it was very like tricky to follow along with that. I think it was even Charlotte last year or just afterwards where they started saying, "Hey, here's PokeStats Live. You can go and
Yep.
share a link of your page, and people can follow on to your progress." Right, and I use it all the time, especially when I wasn't at the tournament. I'm able to have all my friends listed there as favorites. I got a ton of people, but are just able to see their matches and what they play against, how did it go, things like that, where it's very easy to track along with that. But yeah, this does start to come into that competitive advantage. I know PokeStats even before would try to do their best to understand what decks were in day two of what they knew, maybe what was on stream, things like that.
Right.
But now there is that little gap where saying, oh, PokeStats does have it, but does it have it? For players that are saying, I'm going to misreport my deck to have a competitive advantage, I see where they're coming from with that, right? You have to win so many games in order to make top 8 here that, why would you give your opponent a little extra edge
It's
and maybe know
cutthroat,
that
right? We just
they got
talked
to make
about
you go
that,
first
right?
or something like that, right? I mean, there's so much going on. I understand where that's coming from. I think in a perfect world, right, we're using PokeStats as a tracking tool, and that if there's a friend group who's able to go and say, oh hey, yeah, I did all my scouting, we had people checking every single person playing deck, and we know every single person's name and what deck they're playing, right? If there's a way for everyone to have that, then I'm kind of okay with that. Because if not, then there will be that gap in information of like there will always be some gap in information of saying, oh, I played this person, they're playing Charizard, make them go first, or oh, this person's playing Tina with Tomb, be ready for the Spirit Tomb type of thing, right? That there's always those aspects that'll be at play to some regard. Here, this levels the playing field, especially for players who aren't very well connected, right? My first tournaments before I got linked up with the crew, then it's just saying, oh hey, I'm going into this match, which in some regard is okay, but is it fair if my opponent knows what I'm playing and I don't know what they're playing?
Correct. I mean, I think it has to be a level playing field. Parker, what are your thoughts?
So I personally, Hartford, one of the tournaments where it was fairly new. I was just up there with my friend or our local Disney. And I definitely use PokeStats to see what people were playing. And the thing is, like, outside of maybe like the coin flip, like it doesn't really help you because
Right.
like there's not the turn one interaction like in the past, like, oh, should I bench this guy because my opponent might end me this turn or stuff like that. There's not really that to worry about. So like you can just play the basic down from your hand afterwards. The only time I think it would really matter is if you're playing against like an Iron Valiant deck or
Yep.
something, and
Yep.
then like you're like, oh, I need to bench two Frigibacks instead of this the one. Um, I guess maybe against like Snorlax too. Like if I'm like
You won't
playing
open Mew, right?
Giratina,
Yeah, you won't open like yeah.
yeah. If I'm playing like Giratina, I won't start the comfy. I'll just put Giratina in the active spot.
Yeah.
Outside of like those two things, which yes, they will come up. Um, like I don't see it as like a huge like issue. It's accessible to like everyone, whereas like it's not like some secret like Illuminati thing. But the misreporting part is like where it kind of comes in, not like a cheating gray area, but like almost.
It comes into like what's the word I'm looking for? I'm looking for a word here that I can't get. Sportsmanship,
Deception,
right? So
morality.
sportsmanship, right?
Yeah,
Like it's
morality,
really like
sportsmanship.
sportsmanship, right? Like
Right.
you're doing something that's really not in the good nature of the game.
Yeah. But also, like, what's the line for that? Like, can I sit down from an opponent and say, "Hey, before you flip, just want to let you know I'm playing Charizard EX." Like, can I say that?
You could.
Technically, no.
And
Well, I mean, you could, but you flip over a Genesect, and they go,
Then
"Oh,
then it's
Judge,
sportsmanship.
you
Yeah.
lied."
maybe it's prized. You're gonna look through my deck. Maybe I'm playing one copy of. I mean, right? I mean, like, what's the what's the line? All right. I mean,
Yeah.
no, I mean, like a bit in jest, but at what point can you, lie, right? I mean, I know people is if you're shuffling, right? Hey, maybe my opponent drops a card, so I can guess what they have, right? Or they shuffle their cards facing out.
Yeah.
Or I've also even thought like sometimes if your opponent's cutting your deck or doing a shuffle, like, hey, are they looking at the cards?
Correct.
Right?
I've thought that too. Yeah.
Like there's again, right? There's this spot where there's like a little bit of that line, and I mean, I don't think it's possible to get rid of all of the imbalance of information, especially like if someone's on stream, right? Cal Connor was on stream in, day 2, right? So if anyone didn't know he was playing Snorlax, they would know. But
Yeah.
also, one of their friends could have watched the stream and counted every single card and sent them the list and say, oh, he got paired against Cal. Here is his exact 60, right? I mean, there's some
So
element that people do have that information.
so let's talk about solutions to this, right? Jared is going to remove it so that you cannot self-report, right? That's one thing he's done, which is great. I agree.
Yes.
But like, people can have their friends submit decks that are wrong, right? Whatever, who knows? Should Pokemon tell us? Should Arcanine tell us? So that way everyone has a level playing field and it's correct for everyone. I mean, obviously Jared has Arcanine data, right? He's getting the parents live. It's updating live. That could happen. Should Arcanine tell us at least the archetype?
Personally, I like that idea if there's some sort of, cooperation says, okay, we're past day 1, now we're going to tell you the archetype. But the problem is when you get to like archetype, like how do you define an archetype? Like some of them are pretty well defined. If it's something like a Charizard EX, oh, you play Pidgeot EX, Charizard EX, we got boom, Charizard, boom, we got Pidgeot. But like, what if you're playing Lost Box with Charizard EX? What if you're playing Lost Box with Kyogre and Roaring Moon? I'm playing Roaring Moon, but I also am playing the Greninja, so I have the Water
Yep.
Threat, or I'm
Yep.
playing Moltres V, right? I mean, as we start to get into the archetype, the way that we define archetypes is a little bit different. And while I think that is more of a minor point where someone say, hey, I could look at a list and determine generally what the archetype is. How do we automate that? So that way a computer is able to look through a list and say, oh, if you're playing 2 Miraidon EX, therefore you are playing a Miraidon deck. I mean, right.
Mhm.
I don't know
No,
if it's
you're
that
right.
objective,
Yeah.
right? You're playing 4 Comfies, could be anything, right? Same thing. You're playing Comfy with Kyogre, with with Giratina, could be Tordpile, could be
Yep.
Giratina Lost Box. You're playing no Comfies, but you're playing a 4/3 Giratina. Yeah, you're still playing Giratina, right?
Okay,
There's
Sawyer.
right. I mean, there's those lines, right, where an archetype is somewhat objective. So now we're saying if we want to have that data fed through from Pokemon, which I think would be ideal, we say, hey, everyone has an archetype. Let's list it correctly. How are we accurately getting that archetype?
Yeah, I mean, they could even, once they digitize match slips, hopefully very, very soon, that team of folks could just quickly, between 8 and 9 go. They got all day too, also, right? Because we're saying do it after day 1, not for day 1. They can just go through and all the ones that kind of aren't automated already that go to other, they could tag them to something, and then someone goes and looks and see how to like make that automated in the future. Who knows, right? There's so many things. Parker, I'm curious, what's your opinion on the archetype availability and the validity of that archetype?
This is probably a little bit of a boomer answer. I'm more on the side of just keeping everything hidden throughout the tournament. Like sometimes, like back when I first started playing, like you didn't even know the person's deck list like after the tournament unless they
Correct.
posted it.
Yeah, yeah.
You'd have to like find them on Burbank City, like posted their, hey, I just won this regional. Um, but like I think maybe that is like a bit of a boomerish point of view. Just like, hey, like why not just have everything hidden?
Yeah.
I think part of the skill is just navigating like every game despite the matchup. Um, Whereas like some people might say that, you know, it's more skillful to know what you're playing against, which is kind of the VGC argument where open team sheets started. And,
Yep.
after VGC did the open team sheets, I think like 95% of the people I've talked to have been like, oh, it's the best thing ever. I don't have to guess if my opponent's special or
If you're about to get
this or
put
holding
to
this
sleep.
or this. And yeah. So like,
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I don't want to speak for all of us. But I don't think any of us want open team sheets,
I personally don't.
right? Maddox, open team sheets.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of open team sheets. I like the closed team sheets aspect. One thing I do want to talk about with VGC is that right, VGC for the longest time has not had open team sheets, right? It was all closed team sheets. You'd be able to see your Pokemon in team preview, and I think there's even a time where you could see their held item to give you a little bit of a clue. But again, that's more of like an archetype, like what's the archetype of this team type of thing. Um, since they added terrestrialization, where basically any
Terrestrialization.
Pokemon could become one of 17
Seven,
types,
yeah.
right now you're just opening the door like so much in terms of like what to expect, where I almost think there's a world where it says, hey, if you go and have your your opponent's Garchomp, I don't know what's meta relevant, but like your opponent's Garchomp, it says, oh, it's using a Terra Ghost attack. Oh wow, I never expected that from Garchomp because it's so off meta, right? You kind of lose some of that aspect.
Yeah.
But now if you just know, oh well, my Garchomp can Terra Ghost, let me play around that. And I think I saw a little bit of a point of the playing around that versus having versus your opponent, you not knowing what is in your opponent's deck.
Yeah, I mean, I think knowing a team sheet, the one deck that would hurt the most, or the couple of decks, would be all the Lost Zone decks, right? The
Oh,
ones that
yeah.
really have to manage your resources. Oh, you got rid of a Roxanne? You've only got one on your T sheet? Chillin', boss KO, like something, right? So there's so many things like that. I don't want to be a dead horse, but interested to hear your opinions, listeners. Follow us on Twitter, message us there, comment on the YouTube video. Let us know your thoughts on how you feel about knowing archetypes. I'm kind of in the camp Parker same. I think just close it. Don't tell anyone anything. If you want to be a good player and you want to do well, you do your homework. Otherwise, we'll find out after tournament. As soon as the tournament's over, open it up and show what they had, right? Totally fine with that. So one quick topic I want to address before we get to the tier list that we haven't talked about is prize checking. I think we've talked about it a little bit here before, but it's kind of another hot Twitter item this week. Do you think we should change it? Should there be prizes? Should you have time to check your prizes? Is prize checking a skill? And should it be rewarded?
So for me, I think it is a small skill impression expression that you see all the top players doing so they can play around with their prize. So when you play against someone who's like average or something, it'll be like mid game and they'll be like, oh, this is prize, and like whereas someone who's a top player would make their entire game plan to play around, oh, this is prized. I may pull it off of this prize. I might do that. So it is like a small skill thing, although I think part of the reason people don't religiously do it is laziness and time because
That's
people
the
tie
350
enough.
minutes, right?
Yep, people tie enough as it is. But it's a very small skill thing, but I am on the side of like, hey, both players could agree to look at prizes, jot them down, shuffle them up, put them back down, save. You know, you're doing 3 games, both people prize checking. You're saving like 10 minutes
10 minutes.
on
I
a
said
game.
10 minutes is a good time, I
You
think.
get to play more Pokemon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, my stance is, and anyone who's tested with me, you'll hear me talk about the homie prize check, which says, hey, we're doing a test game, we're playing for fun. And when I do my first deck search, I'm just going to check, I'm just going to look at all my prizes. So I'm not wasting your time looking through them. I'm not wasting my time saying what's prize. I just look at them and say, okay, this is what's prize. These are the key resources that I don't have available. And now we're ready for that. I do agree. I think there is some skill expression to it where you're saying, okay, if you're able to check them quickly and more efficiently, then in theory, that's better. I think the common trope of you need to be able to check all of your prizes on that first deck search and know all the 6 cards. I don't think you necessarily need to do that, but I think being able to get and know what key pieces are prized throughout the game is important. One other part that kind of conflicts a little bit is that there's kind of a gentleman's and an unwritten rule that says for your first deck check, you get more time to check your prizes.
Which is
If you
not
check
a
the
rule.
right, if you check the
It's not a
rules, if you
rule,
check the
yeah.
rules, you have 15 seconds for each action. So you play a battle VIP pass turn 1, and you're saying, "Hey, I'm going to take 2 minutes to check my prizes." Theoretically,
15
that's
seconds
against the
in,
rules,
judge.
right? I mean, theoretically, right? Couldn't you call a judge on that for someone? And I think that you don't really have a defense. The judge would have to say, "Oh, hey, it's it's an unwritten rule that we're allowing more time for that first deck check." But I don't know if that would hold up.
Yeah, I don't think it would. Yeah.
So, but again, I think also adding a whole new stage to setup where you're going and looking at the prizes, like that also kind of meshes well on like not too well. As someone who has not perfected prize checking, part of me says, "Hey, homie, prize check would be great. Saves us time." I do think for now, since the game has been like this for so long time, I don't know if we'll be seeing any changes with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I don't think we'll see a lot of changes with it. The change I'd love to see, just eliminate it. Just take 6 prizes without taking prizes. It's not that big of a deal. Because it just let somebody
Wait, sorry,
deck build.
sorry. Just to clarify, you're
Yeah.
saying
I'm saying
you're
no
saying you have
prizes.
access
Just
to
have, like,
you have
a
access to all 60
token.
cards.
Yeah, token.
Yeah.
Just take 60, whatever it is, man. Oh, you took a token, draw a card from your deck. That's your prize. Just draw a card from a deck. I don't know. There's some things they could do there, but like there's just so much skill expression, so little skill expression there. While it is a skill and a lot of players don't do it and they should, I'd rather see allow people to build a 60 card deck and use the 60 card deck to its full capability so that we can see the best game of Pokemon that's available and not like Vinny. I mean, thank God he played so well game 3.
They played.
But man, prizing 3 Giratina Vs in the final against the Charizard EX deck, unheard of, right? Like that is crazy. And if Caleb has just boss hit that one that turn, who knows? Maybe it's just a different game, even though he's not KOing it, right? There was some, Caleb got rid of the choice belt early, which I think was a critical misplay of the game. It probably cost him, what is the number? $3,000, $3,000.
Yeah, 3,000.
I'm pretty sure him getting rid of that choice belt turn 1 just to get a couple of things down was probably worth. That was the misplay of the game, and because if he had it and he just goes boss KO that Tina there, the game's over. It's literally just over.
But also, like, I don't even know if at that point you could call it a misplay. If you just say, right, oh, well, should I keep this choice belt on the off chance that my opponent only has only one Tina available
No,
to them?
I think
right?
that choice belt is the most important card in that matchup. You're playing the choice belt for that matchup.
Yeah, we'd have to go back and look at the exact situation. But I mean, like, there still is, again, an element of, what to play around. But I do agree. It's like, I've had games where I've prized all 3 Mew Maxes and I'm playing DTE Mew. So those are my only attackers. So at that point, it's like, okay, I have, no outs to take prizes really.
Yeah.
So at some spots like that doesn't feel good. Or one could maybe make the argument that, hey, my deck is too fragile, or I have to accept that risk of playing a deck that only has 3 cards that can attack, and they'll happen to be prized a very low percentage of the time. Then it's my bad.
Yep.
Everyone should play Peonia.
Peonia, exactly.
Yeah.
Town
And miss
map,
your
right?
rare candies anyways.
Reprint town map. It's fine. All right, let's move on to our Knoxville and Liverpool tier list. So this weekend is the Liverpool Championships in Europe, and next weekend is the Knoxville Championships. So let me go ahead and share and let's get our tier list kicked off here. Let me know when you boys can see my screen.
I can see it.
All right, let's jump into it. Is there an S tier deck?
Tina.
Right, it has to be, right?
Yeah, and I know we've mentioned it a lot before. Hey, if the best players get on this deck, you don't brick all day, it's gonna win.
And it has. A lot of top players have picked it up. I agree with that, Max. Do you have any objections to Tina?
Again, still some consistency issues, but you just can't argue with the results and the skill ceiling that it has.
Yep. Okay. Charizard, A tier?
For sure. For sure. There's
He's
something
squarely A
between
tier.
S and A, then yeah.
Yeah. Roaring Moon. How do you feel like Roaring Moon is positioned in the current meta?
Hard to say, right? Because I think you take a favorable Zard matchup, and then you take
Yep.
a favorable Miraidon matchup in most cases. You take a favorable Mew matchup. Um, it's like
Your Tina
when the
matchup's definitely unfavored, right? Maybe
uh
if you Pokemon catch you up the first Tina and you start the race, you probably win.
you might, but then like you get double rock sand or like all that stuff, and it's like I could argue it could be A tier just based off performance and just the inherent like deck strength. Like maybe if there's something between A and B, like I say, but I could
I'm
see an argument for being there.
Yeah, I'm fine with Roaring Moon and A for now. I think right now actually that Roaring Moon is kind of the deck to watch out for. Again,
Yep.
just seeing a lot of success. I think that, if you're doing testing, you're going to Knoxville, you're going to one of these other regionals. I mean, be ready for Roaring Moon. I'm not saying it's going to win the tournament. It's going to, have a 20% play rate, but I think we could see it again around what was it in
10.
Charlotte 10? I think it could still be around 10.
Yeah.
Some will play Iron Hands, some will play Gradient Greninja, some will just play, the Dark Energy. I think it's a deck you need to be ready for, and is a deck that if it's firing on all cylinders, then it'll do well. So
Yeah.
be ready for it.
Yeah, I agree. I think maybe Moon is that deck that Tina kind of used to be, that if a lot of top players pick it up and they play it well and they build a good deck list, then it could see success. Um what deck you guys want to do next?
I'd put Snorlax in A. Um, basically you beat most of the. I actually think it has like a kind of hard Moon matchup.
I agree.
And then Tina's bad, but like everything else should be pretty decent. I guess like not Palkia, not Palkia.
Yeah, definitely gets bodied by Palkia, but that's a very low portion of the meta.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's just one of those things. You look at Cal Connor, went 13 rounds without playing a Tina and was tearing it up, right? But then he hit a Tina on
What?
stream and then won. Or sorry, then lost. You don't hit Tina with that deck. I think you do just beat a lot of the matchups, right? Um,
Yeah,
so
I think Tina's success is seen because there's so many strong pilots of it that are playing it and doing well with it. If you're not ready to play against Snorlax, then I mean, even if you're playing a deck like Tina or Roaring Moon that I think is okay into Snorlax, you're probably still just losing if you're not familiar with the matchup. I do think it's a world
that's
where we
true.
say, hey, listen, if theoretically, if our top few decks are like Tina, Moon, Miraidon, decks that have pretty good Snorlax matchups, even like a Fusion Mew, I think is okay into Snorlax stall. Like say if that 40% of the room all knows how to perfectly play the matchup, then I think Snorlax isn't doing as well as it does. But
yeah,
again, I think with such
They
strong
just
pilots,
don't.
with people not knowing the matchup, that Snorlax will still continue to see success. And if you're one of those people that don't know how to play against it, learn. Don't just say I'm going to scoop up my cards, right? Just learn the matchup because it's not a meme deck. It's here. If you want to make a deep run, you're going to have to play one.
and we had eight in day two, 8 Snorlaxes in day two. I think there's even an argument to move this down to B tier for this tournament specifically this weekend, and Knoxville because it's a smaller player pool. And with it being a smaller player pool, maybe people know how to play around it a little bit. And Tina's on the rise, so I could maybe convince myself to move Snorlax to B tier, just
Mhm.
specifically for the current meta and Tina growing and doing well and keep doing
Yeah,
well.
I'm okay with that. I think as the people play the deck more people also understand that matchup. So I think it's a little bit worse positioned for this, upcoming torrent regionals rather than the past few.
Parker, you agree with that? You want to keep it in A tier? You have an argument to keep it in A tier?
Uh, you guys can move it if you want. It's fine.
Yeah, it's a really strong deck still.
It's a very strong deck, but I think it's just one of those decks that if you have a deck that doesn't auto lose to it, or even if you do have, Charizard or Guardian, you play it very, very well, that you can beat it. um, I have two Miraidons on here, Miraidon Flaffy and Miraidon. I think, playing Miraidon this past weekend, that the meta is a little, again, not great for it. There's a lot of Charizard. The Moon matchup isn't great. the Tina matchup's not great. All those matchups are not great. You do take a good Gardevoir matchup, you take a good Sablezard matchup, which will be on the rise a little bit. You can beat Mew, you know, because you're playing Tomb most of the time. Personally, playing the deck and continuing to play the deck, I still don't think it's better than B tier for these tournaments.
I'd
But
agree.
that's just my personal opinion.
I'd agree. Funnily enough, if Goldango is on the rise, it has a bad Goldango
Has a
matchup.
terrible Goldango matchup. I mean,
Um,
Peony's better in a Goldango
right.
than Fluffy. So, and you do have the double Raichu and stuff, but the problem with the double Raichu, even if you're playing the EXP shares, when you discard your energy, you don't get to share it. You know, it's only when you're KO'd. So, like if
Mhm.
EXP share was like, oh, whenever energy leaves your field, oh,
Hell
EXP
no.
share would be broken. It'd be so broken. So I think we have two for B tier Maddox opinions on Maridon and
I'm
Maridon
okay with it in
Fluffy.
B tier. I think the decks that it does well in Prey on are just not being played as much anymore. Back when
Arceus,
Guardy
yeah.
was a much higher percentage of the meta,
And
it was
Arceus
around,
decks.
right? But now again, the big decks are kind of all tougher matchups. Tina's tough, Charizard's tough, Roaring Moon can be tough, right? You know, like it's just it's good into its good matchups. Just that its good matchups are being played less by players.
Yeah, I mean, I think let me just fact check myself real quick. Yep, yep, yep. I'm pretty sure it hasn't won since LAIC, right?
Maridon,
No,
no.
Maridon has
So
not
it
won
got
since then.
second
No.
at one of the tournaments, but yeah, I think the biggest thing that Maridon has lost in this format is that Chen Pao is like not like tier A or tier 1 or highly played anymore. You saw Maridon do very well at Brazil because it took a very good Chen Pao matchup.
And Guardy.
Yeah, and Guardy, right? So, and those are two of the most popular decks. So while we're talking about that, Chen Pao, where is this deck positioned right now?
Ugh. I feel like C is too low, but B is too high. Obviously the ceiling, you can one shot anything, you can ninja multiple times, but like it's rough out here. Like I don't know.
With Chen Pao and let's talk about Golden Goal at the same time, right? I think those are the two decks that can one shot and use Greninja pretty well.
Yeah.
Which one of them is better if you were going to compare Golden Go and Chen Pao,
If you
like
had like a
one on one?
if you had like a gun to my head and said you have to play one of these two,
I mean,
I
Golden
think
Go
I'd play
inherently draws cards, right? But Chen Pao
right,
has
but
to set up to draw cards.
there's a lot of path and stuff too. But I think I would maybe play Chen Pao over Goldango.
Maddox?
Maybe.
I'm in the same spot. I mean, I think Goldango is good. It's not proven enough. Um, Chen Pao, I think, you know, if you get that turn 2 rare candy backs, then you're in a very, very good spot. Um, Lestex playing Avery is very good for backs as well.
True,
Yes.
true.
Yes.
Goldango again has that high ceiling and it's tough to knock out and you see cards, but at the end of the day, when they go Roxanne Path you and you say, how am I supposed to get how much energy you need? 6 energy?
6.
Or maybe you even need power up an attacker, right? I mean, how am I going to get 7 energy in my hand off of a Path Roxanne at 2?
Yeah.
Chin Pao can barrel out of that.
Yeah,
Right?
Chen Pao can
And
set
you
up two
maybe play
barrels, even
2.
if you're Sableye, right? It's just, yeah, I have 2, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think Chen Pao's a little bit better position than Goldango, even though Goldango is very good, and we're seeing some good players pick up the deck and try it out in major tournaments with Palkia. I think Chen Pao when it sets up is a very scary deck. Even you have people that can tech in the Kirim, if they really want to like get really fancy. I don't recommend that, but people can, and that's a really strong single prize attacker in that deck. But just being able to chain Greninjas, right? Goldango can use Greninja, but you can only use it once.
Yeah.
Chen Pao can use Greninja every turn. So Rod, Nest Ball, Switch, you know, whatever. So I put Chen Pao in B tier and Goldango in C. Sorry, Abby, friend of the podcast. I know you're listening. We love the deck. It's awesome success. Congratulations on your 5-3-1 finish, and Charlotte as well. We both missed points. Let's rest in peace together. But yeah, I think Goldango just its time is coming. It's not now. but it's coming.
Yeah.
I
All
mean,
right.
that's pretty solid.
Gardevoir. Where does Gardevoir fall? I think Gardevoir's beating everything except for Miraidon consistently, right? If it sets up.
I mean, the Tina's 50-50, I think. The Zard is favorable if you can draw your reversals.
Yep.
And Iona them into badness. I've never played the Moon matchup, but I've been told it's not good. Or I've been told Moon into Guardy is not good.
Yeah, Guardy's pretty favored in the Moon.
Yeah,
I would
unless you're
say.
playing the hands.
I guess they have
combo.
like 10 million Ionos and knockout. Yeah.
I mean, I think our local Jason said he played hands in his list and he was able to get turn one hands against one of the Guardies he played. So
That is disgusting.
I mean, you got 4 stone digging through the deck. You just need 3 energy switch and an attachment.
I would fight my
You
opponent.
just need 3 energy switch and an attachment. You play 4 of that card.
Yeah, well, 4 seal stone finds whatever you need. It's fine.
I think if I get turn 1 hands by
Moon.
Moon, I think we're meeting in the parking lot after that game.
All right.
Throw some iron hands.
So Jason, if you're listening, I think Parker wants to money match you. So let him know when you're ready.
No, I mean, listen, Gardevoir I think is theoretically favored into so many decks. Even Miraidon it can do well against if it sets up. It's theoretically an unstoppable deck. When players just aren't playing it, I just don't know what to say about it. Like players are not showing up with it. It loses to itself often. But again, we know it has this incredibly high power level. It's just tough to play right now.
Yeah, we had 25 in day 2. This is still an A tier deck, right?
I say so.
Right? I think it's still
There's
A.
25 Guardians in day 2.
Yeah, I think you have
see
to keep it at A tier.
Tina's. It's Charizard.
All right, Lost Zone box. So this is any Turbo Lost Zone. This is any
I'm assuming this is
Lost
like
Zone piles.
yeah,
7
Moon
Deadly
hands,
Sins.
Kyogres.
some Kyogres.
I think
yeah.
Kyogre is probably the best version of Lost Zone box that's not Lost Zard. So let's just assume this is Kyogre or any type of like turbo list. I think I mean Zards are cutting Lost City, which is great currently.
Yeah.
But the problem is they're playing Jirachi. I've heard some rumors of people cutting Jirachi. If they do, then you'll see Lost Zone Feast. I think Lost Zone takes a favorable Tina matchup, takes a favorable Moon matchup,
Very
takes a
slightly.
50-50 Gardevoir and 50-50 Zard because you do play Devo Tool. But Miraidon's hard to deal with, obviously, because they can just get the hand so fast. What about you guys? Where do you think this deck is positioned in the current meta for? Just remember, we're going to Europe this weekend, and they love their Lost Zone over there.
True. They also love Mew over there.
Well, we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah. For some reason, Lost Box Charizard is like a major deck over in Europe, and I think in the States it's just not. I guess this Lost Box Charizard is probably referring to Sablezard, not the actual Lost Box Charizard.
Sablezard, yeah.
I think he's gotta be at least B, right?
I think like both Lost Boxes are a little underwhelming right now. Again, we know they have a high ceiling and they can do so much stuff. Just the consistency of them and getting to those pieces and just having such a vulnerable deck as it is. I feel like right now, the best way to play Lost Box is definitively Tina. Other than that, I don't know if I could put Sablezard or Turbo Lost Box above B tier.
Yeah, I don't know if we could. I agree with that, but are these decks better than Miraidon currently in the current meta? Are these Lost Box decks positioned better than Miraidon is?
I'd say they're about the same.
They're about the same.
I would say so.
Let's start stacking this B tier. All right. We'll talk about Mew last because that deck sucks. Zoro box made day 2 at Charlotte. Is Zoro box positioned well?
No.
I mean, you can't beat Tina.
I don't think he beat Tina. I don't think he beat Zard.
Bro, Zard's
Gardevoir
cutting
You
Lost
have-
City. You
really-
just
oh,
Squavilium then.
I guess.
Yeah, you can. Okay,
can
Charizard is probably actually like the one free matchup.
Zard and
If they're not
Miraidon.
playing Lost City. If they're playing Lost City,
Right.
it's probably not favorable.
Yeah, I guess
I still
Zard
think
and
we trade well
Miraidon
enough.
are your
I don't
good matchups. That deck, but everything else seems kind of bad.
I'd say Moon's okay as long as you can get set up. I think Gardevoir is still awful for Zorbox. You lose to Stall.
C or D?
I'd maybe D tier this one.
I think unfortunately it has to be D tier.
and it's
Yeah.
not saying this deck is unplayable. I was just saying it's the worst one on the list at this
I mean,
moment.
it does have some bad matchups and can have some terrible hands. Anthony, sorry. We put it on the list though. Congratulations on your finish.
Yeah, shout out to Anthony Bruno, absolutely cracked Zorbox player. And I would definitely be playing Zorbox if I was not forced
Yeah,
to play
so
Mew by everyone I know.
yeah, so speaking of that, Maddox, Twitter is in an uproar right now. They really want you to play Zorobox this tournament. It is the last tournament where you physically can play it that you're going to, unless you somehow go to Vancouver. So why won't you give the people what they want?
I think there's like 2 people on Twitter that have said that, and I love both of those people, but you know how it is.
I mean, I think there's 3 now, me, Nick,
Oh,
and
there's 3.
Anthony.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so
I'll
we're
consider
up
it.
to 3. So if you're listening to this podcast, make sure you at Maddox TCG play Zorobox in Knoxville. I'm at home, Maddox. I know you're not. I got the cards. If you want me to bring them, just let me know.
Yeah, bring them just in case. You never know. If I get 1,000 retweets, maybe I'll play it.
Oh, you heard it here, guys. 1,000 retweets. I'm gonna put the Twitter out right now. 1,000 retweets. Max Corcoran will play Zorobox to Knoxville.
Do not.
This is gonna happen. Make it happen, guys. Retweet it.
Make it
You got 2
happen.
weeks. You got 2 weeks to get to 1,000 retweets.
Speaking of what I will be playing to Knoxville, Mew VMAX.
You're gonna play that deck again, bro? Aren't you tired of it?
I just got 3rd with it. I gotta play it again.
Good
We're gonna
God.
try to win with it.
True.
All right. This
Okay.
guy, these Mew players, man, I tell you.
So, coming from the Mew player, right, who is always looking for every line of optimism with Mew, you say, well, wow, Mew didn't do very well in Charlotte, which means now's the best time to play Mew.
Well, we know
I
it's
mean,
gonna win Liverpool, right?
Actually, I probably will. Someone in Europe's going to play Mew and do very well with it. But I mean, just my thing is like people looking at Charlotte saying, hey, Mew didn't do very well, right? I think there's a chance, okay, hey, Artina's now cutting those Spiritombs that they're playing, or other decks cutting their Spiritombs. We even had decks playing Drapion. I don't know when the last time Drapion was actually played to a major, until last week. So I do think there's a world where a little bit of those techs are cut and makes Mew a little bit better positioned. If we're seeing more Roaring Moon, then maybe Fusion's slightly better position than DTE. But again, Judge Path is just broken
It's
and
games.
really good.
Yeah.
No, Judge Path sucks. I played that this weekend. All of my judges were terrible. Anyways, Mew, Genesect, so DTE, which one is better? DTE or Fusion in the current meta? I think one's A tier and one's B tier.
Do you actually think that, or are we just splitting them up to not keep B tier so stacked?
I mean, if it was me, I'd put him down here in D tier.
Now you're just misleading the poor folks on the podcast.
I mean, I don't think they're both A tier.
They both pop off in different ways.
Yeah, I mean, I
Same
think
way,
the
but
meta
different
is
ways.
very weird for them. I think DTE Mew takes a better Zard matchup than Fusion does, weirdly enough.
I agree.
But Fusion's better into the field. So in my opinion, Fusion's A and DTE is maybe B, potentially C.
I'd say B. Just because
Yeah,
you're just
I'm
gonna
fine
win.
with
You're
that.
just gonna win games going Battle VIP Pass, cram heads, Battle VIP Pass, play out your hand, attach DC, attach Choice Band, Judge Path Pass, and your opponent's gonna go, I can't do anything.
All right, talking about a deck that underperformed this weekend. Holy moly, is that right? Oh, 6. Here we go. We had
Holy
6
smokes.
rapid strikes in day 2. Not sure where this highest finisher is. Highest finisher,
Alex
Alex Kreckler. Yep,
Mhm.
busted player.
Name
24th
on
place. Inteleon Urshifu can't really beat Tina, I don't think, for the most part. I mean, it
Not
can.
consistently.
Not consistently.
If you play against like Joe Blow that benches 3 comfies and tries to lost impact you turn 2, then
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, Moon's on the rise, and that's a terrible matchup for the deck. I think you do beat Zard, you do beat Guardy. You probably lose to all the Muse.
Oh
And
no,
you
do you beat Zard? I feel like Zard's like tough because like you 3-shot them while they're just like.
you Devo. You spread
Devo.
Devo.
Oh yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I
Yes.
forgot about you.
Yeah, spread Devo. And I think you hard lose to Snorlax as well with that deck. So where is Urshifu positioned?
You don't think you can just one Inteleon pick the thing back up every turn? Or
No,
I don't know.
they're just
Once
gonna Erica's
Sydney
you.
or
once they Erica's your rating Alakazam, you just lose.
And you
basically.
can't deal with Mimikyu if you don't put Octillery in play.
that's true. Yeah.
I think Rapid Strike's in kind of the position that Snorlax is, where it performs well because we see such strong pilots of it. And again, some matchups. I do think, right, well, maybe Tina is favored into Rapid Strike.
Still
You know,
beautiful.
theoretically, but the average player may not know that matchup well enough, especially for some of these other fringe decks. And as you just get to newer players, you know, who knows the Rapid Strike matchup in and out. If you talk to a Rapid Strike player, someone who really, really knows the deck and plays at these majors, they know every matchup inside and out and are just playing at such a high level that, you know, you need to be ready for almost the player more than the deck. I
Right.
do think that even though it has been so well positioned for many tournaments, that just due to the fact that it's not performing well just points to some of the inconsistencies and some of the issues with the deck, so which is going to hurt its upside. So again, I'd probably say like B or lower.
Yeah,
I
I
was
think
thinking C,
I
but
agree. I think current meta with Moon on the rise, that its position right now is not very good.
But can we put in C if it's beating
It's only beating
Zard and Guardy?
Zard. I mean,
Well, I
Guardy,
guess
it
Chen
can
Pao
beat
better
Guardy,
than
but I mean,
Rapid Strike.
I think Shen Pao's better positioned if it sets up.
Like, I don't even know if Turbo Lost Box is better than Rapid Strike.
I can see that. We'll
And
reevaluate at the end.
we'll review.
Yeah, we got two more. Let's get through these two, and then we'll reevaluate real quick. Arc piles. I don't think if you're not, one of the busted Arceus players, I don't think you should play this deck.
you're not Connor Chiapetta or Makani
McConney, yeah,
Tran,
Or the
McConney, Joe
Straffords.
Turntine, Strafford, yeah, all the
Turntine,
yeah, that crew. I think you lose the Maridon, you lose into Moon, you lose into Gardevoir probably. You lose into a lot
Tina's
of decks
tough.
here. I think this deck is just straight C or D tier overall if you're not already playing it.
I have no experience with the Gigas build, but like I can see an argument for it being B, but like I'd say C's maybe where it belongs.
Yeah, I mean, if we have a player basically making back-to-back top eights with Arceus, can it be a C tier deck?
Yeah, that's why I was thinking like, B and like there's a fair amount of them. Nathan Stratford, Connor Chiapetta in day 2 with the deck. Like
I mean, I think it has to be on the same level as Urshifu. That like it's just one of those decks that like yes, it can win. I mean, any deck in this format can do well. I think we've established that. And we can reevaluate some of these other decks in the B tier maybe. That as we start comparing to Arceus, but I don't know. I just don't think it's very good because Miraidon's still going to show up. It's still going to be 10%. Moon's going to be 10%. Tina's going to be a lot. You can beat Tina if you find your V guard, but that's if you find your V guard when you need it. So
yeah.
And Palkia, as the one guy on the podcast that has played Palkia, I think it's probably better than Zorobox, so I can't put it in D tier.
I was gonna
Uh,
say C
yeah,
personally.
but I don't think it can go higher than C right now. Every Tina box is playing Manaphy, and because of that, everything gets coherently worse.
Well, just have to say, do you know what Tina Box was not playing Manaphy?
Which
Vinny's winning
one?
list.
The Vinny's winning list. Sick. Hopefully they cut it. Look out for your Palkies this week. All right, let's evaluate. I agree with you, Maddox. Some of these lost boxes maybe got to move down. Maybe we just move both of them down. And then after that, the tier list looks probably pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, Sable Zard, right? We know Ken do well, has a lot of trouble with hands. Again, Jirachi's played so much. Right? Alex Shmansky played it to a top 8 finish. And I think was honestly positioned pretty well had he not hit the one Miraidon in
And
cut
cut.
in
Yeah.
that first round, and even then he got it down to a coin flip. Now, decepting coin flip because there was actually two because he went Peony for two Pokemon catchers. We only need heads on one of them, so I think it was pretty likely.
Well, didn't he flip tails on the first one?
He did.
Yeah.
So
he literally went 50-50.
But if you look at every coin flip is isolated and one series of events not indicative of the other, then it was a coin flip.
What deck is better coin flippers, Miraidon or Mew?
A coin flip? Oh, wait, you're talking about Pokemon catchers?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're gonna see all the Miraidon peonies play him now because
Mhm.
top 8 list, and something we haven't talked about on this podcast. All of Azul's crew was on Miraidon with catchers.
And if you tune into Grant Manley's stream after he did not make day 2, he talked about how it's such an awful deck and how he would have rather played Fusion Mew because if you're gonna lose to Charizard, might as well play Fusion Mew.
True. So do we want to change anything? You want to move any of these lost boxes down or etc.? Happy with where this is?
What's better right now, Sablezard or Turbo Lost Box?
I think they're both good in different ways, honestly. If somebody can figure out a really good Turbo Lost Box build, I think Turbo is positioned really well right now.
So I think because the only deck that plays Lost City right now is Mew, and that's only the fusion one, really. I think like Sablezard, kind of.
Tables are kind of good if you can play the game. Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe Turbo Lost Box in C, Sablezard in B. Again, also just I think it's to be said if there's still so much Tina around, Sablezard being favorable into Tina does carry some value.
Also, a deck being in C tier does not mean we think it's a bad deck.
Or
Know
being
what it
in D
means.
tier, not a bad deck. Zorbox is a
Yes,
good deck.
yes. If it's on this list, it's a pretty good deck.
Yeah, I think
Could win the regional.
any deck on this list can win the regional.
Yeah, any deck C or above could win the regional.
All right, while we're here, predictions while we get ready to wrap up our episode. Will Tina win 3 tournaments in a row?
Wait, so sorry, which tournament are we predicting for? Are we predicting for Liverpool or for Knoxville?
Let's go Liverpool
Knoxville?
first and
Okay.
then Knoxville. We're just gonna do both. Will we when we come back, will it have 1-4? Let's do that. Will it have 1-4 in a row?
Liverpool, let's see. I think Muirgardy takes Liverpool, and I think Knoxville is probably Tina.
Maddox?
Yeah, I think assuming none of us win Knoxville,
Hmm.
Tina will win Knoxville. I think Tina will not win Liverpool.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think something spicy is gonna show up this weekend and win the tournament. Europe is always cooking, so let them cook. And then maybe the meta changes a little bit, but we all know Palkia is gonna win in Knoxville, so we'll be there.
Fusion Mew Palkia finals in Knoxville. You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. Let's go, boys. But thank you again for all your support recently. Also, just a huge shout out to Sunny TCG for this dope mic. He donated one of his old mics to me, so thank you, Sunny. Just want to give you a huge shout out. And like I said, thank you everyone else for your likes and comments. So please like this video, comment on this video, retweet our tweets. Definitely retweet the tweet so Max can play Zorobox in in Knoxville.
If you run back the tape, there are some conditionals in there. 1,000 retweets does not guarantee me to play Zorobox.
This is bull. Can we have a number? I need a definitive number. 10,000?
There's no way we're getting 10,000
I don't
retweets.
I'm asking for a number, man. Give me. I need a definitive number.
If we get like 10,000 retweets, I'll go to another regional so I can play Mew and Zorobox before they rotate.
Bet. All right, you heard it here first, guys. 10,000 likes.
Actually, we'll make it we'll make it 1,000. 1,000 retweets is more reasonable. That's
1,000. All right, 1,000. Okay, so 1,000, you will go to Vancouver or something and play Zorobox.
Yeah, might as well, right?
Make it happen, guys. Thanks for your joining this episode. I hope you really enjoyed it. This is the Beach Court Podcast signing off. Hope you have a great one.
Yep.